Welcome to She's the Boss, the podcast where female wellness entrepreneurs talk ambition, money, and ownership out loud. I'm your host, Lee McSwan, a certified holistic nutritionist turned wellness business coach. This is where conversations are unfiltered, the rules of entrepreneurship get rewritten, and nothing is off limits. Money, motherhood, friendships, legacy, wealth, power, and what it really takes to build a life and business on your terms. Let's get after it.
Today's guest is Erin, a former elementary teacher turned natural health entrepreneur who has spent over 15 years in the holistic health space. She's helped run one of the largest natural health clinics in Florida and now leads businesses focused on healing, leadership, and reactivating the body's innate intelligence. Erin's work sits at the intersection of science, self-trust, and personal power. And I know she would be a powerful voice for this conversation. So I'm so excited to welcome you to She's the Boss, Erin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
All right. So I always start the show with an icebreaker question. And given that it is January 1st, 2026, I need to know if you have a resolution or goal and if you have a word for 2026.
Okay. So I was getting ready to lead into, instead of resolutions, I have a word. And so my word is create. And it's actually a word I chose a decade ago when I very first started choosing a one word. And the reason why I chose this word is because I feel like it encompasses everything, because we have the power to create our thoughts, our habits, our goals, our intentions. And so whatever I do, I will be intentional in determining what I'm choosing to create this year.
Oh, I love that. So we're going to have to keep an eye out on your social to see what exactly it is that you are creating. So take us back to the version of you who was still teaching. You were working as an elementary school teacher. At that point in your life, what was it that version of you wanted? And what did you notice was missing at that point for you?
Yeah. So during that time, I called myself like a peacemaker. I did kind of played by the rules and did what others expected me to do. But I always had this like pull to do more. So for a decade, it was, am I going to go more in like helping children in a different way outside the classroom? I always feel like life happens beyond the four walls of a classroom. And so while there's only so much I can do in the class to help kids, I focused on leadership skills and habits and that sort of thing. I just felt like I was meant to do more. So I decided to follow that goal and dream. And one of my passions was natural health. So that's what led me out of the class, was to help people live happier, healthier lives.
And what were you afraid would happen if you were to actually listen to that feeling, that nudge that could make you step into this new version of yourself with this new business journey, career journey? Was there any fear that came up for you?
Absolutely. I think I truly identified as a teacher, right? That was like who I was, as Erin the teacher. But I knew I just had that pull because I was constantly dabbling in different natural health modalities. And so I was scared leaving the classroom because it was a world I didn't know. And I was stepping into a different version of me, one that I had embraced personally, but not professionally. And I guess I could just say I did it scared, right? You just take one step forward, and some cases I felt like fear felt like it was wrong, but at the same time, I knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, you had that internal knowing that kind of pushed you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you have people in your life close to you who were aware of this pivot that you were looking to make? And were they supportive? Were they apprehensive?
Oh, they were very supportive, because at that current moment in time, it was a logical next step. It was up-leveling, and they saw that for me. Now, I made another decision down the road we can talk about later where I definitely took a more blind leap of faith. But this one was logical, and because it was very well supported.
Yeah, so it was more like a calculated logical next step for you.
Correct. It was expansive.
How did you learn to trust yourself in this season of growth, expansion, and stepping into the new?
I think it's because I always made wise decisions that I knew that I would take care of myself and things would always work out no matter what. It might not go as planned, but I've moved around my whole life. So change is not something that I'm scared of. And so I actually embrace it. And I've learned that I'm all about trial and error. But So change is not something to be afraid of, and things will work out. It just may not look like you expected it to, but there's always lessons along the way. And I had a great support system too. So
I think a lot of women can really learn a lot from that, because I do think that a lot of the times women put themselves into a box, and you talk about having this identity of being the teacher, like that was who you were at your core. And I think a lot of us women naturally get trapped into that. And so I really applaud you for like leaning into what you knew to be the next thing for you and stepping outside of that identity. When you left your teaching identity and stepped into this more natural health identity, what were you so grateful to have left behind as a teacher? And what were you so appreciative of with your new identity?
So in the new role that I took on, I really learned to set boundaries along the way and know, basically, like, it kind of gave me an opportunity to figure out what my core values are outside of the classroom, because it looked very different. In the class, you have that specific time of day that you're working. This one ended up being working 70 to 80 hours a week. And so it really gave me an opportunity to figure out, like, who is Erin? What does Erin stand for? What does Erin enjoy about this? And then, of course, at that time, that actually led me to pivot a little bit. But it was a year of lots of reflection and growth and finding the components of me that I really liked. And a lot of that is teaching and mentoring as well, but I could do it in a different way. So I got to do a lot of things helping people to live that healthy lifestyle. It just was more of an adult version of me instead of the teacher version.
So tell us about what it is exactly that you do. What is it in natural health that you do? How do you help people? Break that down for us.
Absolutely. So I have two things. One, when I left the position that I left, the marketing position, I ended up going out on a limb and left without a plan, but knew that I took that experience and wanted to do it on my own. And so now I do marketing for natural health businesses. So I help work with acupuncturists and chiropractors and the functional medicine doctors. I help them to elevate their messaging so they can connect to their clients. And then the second thing I do is I help people reactivate their dormant stem cells. I found that phototherapy is a super amazing healing modality. And so I work with people to help them to feel better with it.
Okay, so this is probably a new term for many people. Can you explain this to us?
Yes. So phototherapy is light therapy. So in the most simplest terms, think about the sun. And when you go out in the sun, we've all been told, go out to the sun to get your vitamin D. Well, I've learned now that the sun actually does not give us vitamin D. What it does is the frequency of light enters your skin and your body, and it elevates vitamin D within your system. So some people who are depleted of vitamin D, that's why they have supplementation, so that can be elevated within their body. So the phototherapy that I do uses your natural infrared light in your body to elevate copper peptides. So
hold on, wait. We have natural infrared in our bodies.
We do.
What? So if do we need to be buying the masks and the panels?
Obviously that helps, but here's how the infrared light works. So think of military infrared cameras, right? And how they can see people at night. So when I tell people that we have infrared light, they're like, I don't see light coming from our body. But we know it's physically proven because those cameras can pick up on that teeny tiny bit of light within your system. So the phototherapy that I help people with is to reflect that light back into your body. And when that light is reflected back in your body, it elevates the copper peptides. And that is like the magic juice of our health right there.
Okay, I have so many questions swirling around in my mind. First of all, let's break this down for listeners. Explain copper peptides and their benefits.
So there are many benefits of copper peptides. One being that when you elevate copper peptides, it actually, I call it like the magic energy that your stem cells need to reactivate and duplicate in your body. And if you're familiar with stem cells, they're like the master building block of our entire body. And they can turn into any other cell in your system and your body and go fix and repair, whether it's in like your organs or your tissues and your gut and your brain. And so when they're functioning, then lots of, I call it like miracles can happen.
Wow. Okay. This is really fascinating. So who is the ideal candidate to come in and experience phototherapy?
Well, we all have stem cells. And the really interesting thing is that the longer we're alive, by the time we're 30, about half of our stem cells are dormant.
Oh, dear. Oh, this is not good.
So if you think about children, right, when they fall and scrape their knee or get bruised, they heal a lot quicker because their stem cells are activated. They've got a lot of them working and they go, the magic word is triage. They go to that spot and fix it. Well, by the time we're 60, about 90% of our stem cells are dormant. So really, because we all have stem cells, depending on what we need support in, anybody can benefit from it because it's just a natural elevation that supports your body.
Yeah, this seems like the ultimate biohack.
Yes, a lot of people are saying that. That's exactly what they call it.
Yeah. And so I would almost argue, and maybe you can support this, that it's not even necessarily a luxury type of therapy. It almost feels necessary given the rapid decline that we experience from the age of 30 onward.
Right. Absolutely.
And so what are some of the amazing results that you've seen from people going through phototherapy?
Well, for me personally, I started using it because I have struggled with gut health for over a decade. And as I've talked to you a little bit earlier, natural health has been something that's been a part of my life for over a decade. And so eating healthy wasn't my problem. There was more to the puzzle piece. And so I do believe stress and things like that contributed. But when I started introducing my body to phototherapy, within just a few weeks, I noticed that my own personal gut issues between being gassy and bloated and just not feeling good after eating slowly dissipated and went away. So from there, then I was like, I have to try this on other people. So if anybody had some sort of situation, friends, family members, former coworkers, I would share this with them. And so I've seen people who have had reversals in diabetes, kidney failure. My own dad personally has had benefits with his blood pressure, and my uncle has seen improvements medically with his heart reversing in age. Energy levels, hormones, we have seen benefits because your body knows what's going on. And so when you give it the energy it needs, then it's going to go fix what needs to happen. So while one person I know decided to use it for their shoulder, they were also fixing their thyroid as well because their body was like, yeah, your shoulder is important, but your thyroid's more important.
So there's a prioritization that happens when we get phototherapy.
Yes. And only your body knows that, right? We might think it's the pain in the shoulder, but you do need your thyroid a little bit more than discomfort in your shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fascinating. So it's not localized treatment, it's systemic.
Yes.
And so how do you receive the phototherapy? Like if someone were to come in to see you, walk me through the process of them coming in to the end of their first treatment.
So it's actually done with a patch that works as a mirror or a shield on your body. And so when that infrared light reflects out of your body, that patch mirrors it back into your system. And therefore, that's when the copper peptides elevate. So within the first few weeks of using it, you have over 4,000 genes that reset in your body. It repairs and heals DNA. Like I said, reversal in heart age, increases collagen. There's so many things, and that's thanks to the copper peptides that are elevated.
Wow. So somebody's literally just coming in and putting on a patch.
Yes.
And is it always put on the wrist, or can it go?
I put it on the wrist to show you today, just because it's easy to. The two places that they recommend it most are behind your neck because our brain health is so important, and then below your belly button because of the gut-brain connection. So you can put it where it hurts as well if you have an injury, but that is like the two most common places to put it.
And how long do you wear the patch for?
So I tell people that you can wear the patch for as little as or as long as you'd like, but knowing that the longer you wear it, think of like a dimmer switch. And so the longer you wear it, the more stem cells are activated. And so that switch turns on, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter because you have more and more stem cells that are activated. And so you can wear it as long as you would like. And then when you don't wear it, right, then you go back to the natural, as we call it, like aging process. So slowly the stem cells will start to deactivate. And so it's just supposed to help keep them active. But we recommend people wearing them for a decade as long as they've been alive. So if you're 30 years old, to wear them for 3 months to get that full stem cell reset.
And could somebody stay on it indefinitely?
Yes, absolutely.
You keep yours on permanently?
Yeah. So you wear a patch a day. So you wear it for 12 hours on, and then you take it off for 12 hours to give your body a chance to kind of reset. And we talk about how your body heals at night. And so you take it off at night.
Okay, this is great because this seems like, obviously it's a non-invasive type of therapy.
How non-transdermal.
Non-transdermal, yes. And I'm assuming any person could use it on the surface of their skin.
And that's why I like it so much, because it doesn't interact with anything that other people are on. So we have people in their 80s and 90s that are using it, that are on tons of medications because of their current health conditions, but they're still seeing miraculous results because all it is light. All it is a frequency. So it's not interacting with anything that they're currently doing.
And talk to me about the price point of this. Like how long? Well, you said about 3 months is ideal if you're like at about 30 years of age, right? Yep. So if I wanted to go on it for, say, 4 months, I'm 40, what am I looking at price-wise to do this?
About $100 a month. And then you've got, depending on shipping and tax.
Okay. And is this available kind of globally throughout the States?
It is. It's in over 70 countries.
Wow.
So, yes.
Insane. And okay.
Actually, I apologize. Go ahead.
Oh, no, please go.
I was just going to let you know that this patch actually just won a biotech award in 2025 for the stem cell industry per se. And so I thought that was pretty amazing. It was over 15 countries that they looked at stem cell technology, and this one won the award. So it's just giving a little validity, because there are actually over 70 patents on this one piece of technology right here. So 70. So we say that you can't patent placebo. And so it does work.
That's incredible. And so you had mentioned that you had been interested in health and wellness over the last 10 years. Yeah. What kind of sparked your initial interest in the holistic world?
So I went to a convention one time, and it was more about mindset and motivation, but there were guest speakers in there who did thought field therapy and a couple other health modalities. And just hearing their stories, I was like, this is really neat. And so that was one avenue. And then the other one is my mom struggled with gluten intolerance for many years. And so we kind of went through a journey with her of figuring out what is going on, what's causing the issues, and then took a more natural approach to help her through some of those. So those were kind of my two gateways into natural health. And I don't know, it just felt right to me.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then from there, how did you get into phototherapy? Like this, I had never heard of it until speaking with you. So is it relatively new?
The company is 20 years old. And actually, the founder who realized that light frequency is such a huge deal was contracted by the Navy SEALs to create some sort of way to help the Navy SEALs to have energy to be able to perform their duties, because they're working 36 hours at a time to be able to fight in combat. And so he used light frequency to come up with what's called the energy enhancer, which uses a specific frequency similar to this to elevate their energy levels. And so that was back 20 years ago. And then beyond that, then David Schmidt is the owner and founder of all of this. He then decided, well, if I can do this for the Navy SEALs, and he knew the power of stem cells, he's like, what if I could use light to support stem cells? And so a lot of people are getting better results with this because it uses their own stem cells instead of stem cell injections, because those use other stem cells and they may not even be active.
I want to pause here for a moment, because if you're listening to this and thinking, I know I'm capable of what these women are talking about, then I want to introduce you to Ignite. Ignite is my mastermind immersion that is designed specifically for female wellness entrepreneurs who are ready to burn down old paradigms and build a business that actually reflects who they are now. We work at the level of identity, leadership, and ownership, so the growth you create is sustainable and not exhausting. You can learn more about Ignite through the link in the show notes. All right, time to get back to the conversation.
Wow. And that's quite a costly endeavor.
It is.
Yeah.
For sure. I've heard of people saying that they've spent tens of thousands of dollars on stem cell injections. I haven't personally experienced that, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I had a neighbor at one time. This was about, I don't know, close to 8 years ago, and her son had terrible, terrible Lyme. And they ended up going to India to get stem cell therapy, and it was $100,000 procedure. So if this is able to give us similar, if not better results, then it seems like a no-brainer. So this is what you do now full time.
It is. It is. I get to travel and help people. When I left the classroom, I had a conversation with my sister that my heart loves to give back and to help others. And I keep using the term helping people live healthy and happy lives because I feel like those are two different things. We can be healthy, but we may not be happy. And we can be happy, but we may not be healthy. And so for me, helping people break through glass ceilings and limitations and barriers in their personal life, but also helping them to feel good throughout life is huge for me. And so when I found phototherapy, this was just a way for me to help and mentor people to make healthy lifestyle choices. But I knew it worked. And I also knew it was simple, right? It doesn't take that much to wear the patches, move about your life as normal, but they're going to get results too. So.
And did you find it just from doing some online searching? Like, how did it come into your field?
I had a friend who had a huge win with her thyroid and was able to get off of thyroid medications at the age of like 41, 42. And when she told me that, I literally was like jumping through the phone of, I need to try this for my gut, because I had just been struggling with eating and even had thoughts of like, I really just want to live like a juicing diet because that just feels better, even though I ate healthy. And so I don't know. The way I feel like the universe works, things come into your life at the right place and the right time. And I didn't even have to think about it.
So how long have you been doing this for now?
I started a year ago in September. So I guess we're right at 15 months, 14 months.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
And what does a day in the life of you running this business look like?
So I do a lot of communication with people who have been using patches. And so it's finding out like what are their goals and really getting to know like their concerns, their goals, and then to help them to use the patches successfully. For most, it's as easy as putting it on in the morning and taking it off at night, while others need a little bit more assistance to get I don't want to say the results, but just to understand how to use it. And so it's supporting them. And then I do have people who are sharing the patches with me as well. And so it's really has been a really cool vehicle for me to step into leadership and to help with it. I call it like a tribe of women of just helping us to help others. One of my friends, we talk about giving people one drop of hope at a time is kind of her little slogan, and just giving people hope that we, as a society, there's so many people who don't feel well, and giving them hope that there are options out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm assuming you don't even have to have brick and mortar. You're just working from home.
Correct. Absolutely.
And how does that feel in contrast to walking into a school, working basically like a 9 to 5, to now having this kind of newfound level of ownership over your day?
It's very freeing, but also it takes time to, what's the right word? It's very freeing, but like I had to learn it over time, how to use my time wisely, because we know we can get distracted a lot. And one of the things I fell into a trap was planning to plan, is what I call it. Meaning trying to like put all the pieces together in the foundation and do all the research, but not actually taking as many action steps as I could. And so that is something throughout the year I'm looking at is, are my choices leading me forward, or are they actually keeping me stalled a little bit?
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's super relatable for entrepreneurs, because when we don't have that conventional structure, we have to be responsible for how our day starts and how our day ends. And time is fleeting. We can blow through an entire day, and like sometimes we're still in our loungewear and we haven't showered and we've sent out one email. And so the day can really get away from us. How did you find that balance of like almost creating that discipline to show up in your business and put in the hours?
Yeah, so I get ready every day like I would be going to work. So I get up, I shower, take my dogs on a walk, I come back and fix my matcha. I usually take a few minutes of just like breathing time. So that's either stretching or listening to something. And then I show up to work. And so I will come sit at my desk, and I have dry erase boards over here that are like, what are my to-do lists? Who do I need to talk to? Who needs me? I just make sure that I'm very intentional. But then obviously throughout the day, I'm human. And so I'll get on social media to do something intentional, and then I get distracted. I'm like, what did I even get on here for? So, I mean, I'm very human, but I do show up every day.
And what would you say to the woman who's listening who struggles to show up, who struggles to get into her business every day because she's working at home and there's all kinds of distractions at home? There's the laundry, there's meals to make, there's dogs to walk, all of that. How can you advise somebody, as somebody who seems to have it down in a pretty realistic way?
Yeah. So what I have discovered is I have to make sure I'm doing things that light me up. And if something doesn't light me up or energize me, then I have to reevaluate. Is it that, for example, with the marketing side that I've done, is it a lack of exchange that I feel like I'm giving more than what I'm getting in exchange? Or is it that I just don't like the task at hand? And so I've done a lot of reflecting of why isn't something energizing me and reframing it. Because one example is I learned that when I do things for others, it's not as scary. But if I'm doing it for myself, I could be doing the exact same action, but for some reason, it feels scarier. And so then I took a step back and realized what really energized me at the very beginning about doing X, Y, or Z. And when I got back to the root of like my why and my purpose and my passion, then I found the energy to do the scary thing. So instead of letting the fear stop me, I realized, no, it's worth stepping into the fear to get to the other side. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's taking a step back and just figuring out what is the challenge for showing up, and is what they're going for what they really want and an alignment for them, or are they kind of forcing forward maybe?
Yeah. And I guess it's using a bit of discernment too, because there's always going to be tasks within our business that we don't want to do, right? Mm-hmm. Like I pass off as much as I possibly can of those tasks that I don't want to do. But there are days, and I call them my admin days, where I just have to bite the bullet. I have to get my inbox to zero. I have to follow up, and certain things just have to get done. But I feel a lot of the times with entrepreneurs where it's meant to feel this journey should be fun and easy and joyful 24/7. And I think you'll probably agree with this, that that's not always the case. And so we have to be a little bit comfortable with the discomfort. And so with this kind of understanding under our belts and kind of knowing that there's these tasks that we have to do in order to run a business, what are some of the characteristics, or maybe even, I know human design is something that you've really taken a deeper dive into with your business. How can you tap into those kind of personality type frameworks that allow us to execute even if we don't want to, or we feel stuck doing the thing that we don't want to do and we procrastinate or we avoid or we complain?
Right. That's a big question. So I'm going to kind of break it down. So one thing I thought of, aside from human design, and I'll get to that in just a second, because you were asking how you get through the busyness of the day. One thing I do is I chunk my time. And so I schedule kind of that admin time or the time to talk to people. And then I also schedule in, I'll call it me time or free time, where if I get A, B, and C done, schedule in that 30 minutes or 45 minutes that takes the pressure off. So that is one other thing. As far as human design, for those who don't know human design, I definitely would look into it. There's so much to learn about yourself, but some of the main types of human design are, I guess, an example within business is, are you meant to respond to things or are you meant to be invited? There's something called a generator who is a responder to situations and circumstances. And somebody like a projector is supposed to be invited into situations. So, like I said, going into businesses, if you're pushing forward and you haven't been invited into a situation, then you're creating more chaos and stress within a situation. I don't know if that makes sense versus allowing that to be invited. I'll let you kind of build off of that. It's a big question. And there's so many nuances. And I'm also not the human design expert, but this has been a tool that has changed my life.
That's amazing. It's something I'm definitely more interested in because it keeps coming up for me. And even when you had sent me a message about talking about human design, I was like, oh my gosh, this is another sign that I need to understand this more. And I've kind of just skimmed the surface of it. So for me, for example, as a Manny Gen, where am I at in terms of that invitation sort of process, I guess? Am I somebody that has to wait to be invited in, like a projector? Am I a bit of both?
No, you get to respond to situations. So one of your things is you can go out into the world and see a situation and respond to it. And as a Manny Gen 2, you're also good at doing multiple things at once. So that you have the difference between a Manny Gen, which is a manifesting generator, versus a generator is you have a little bit bigger energy and can take on more tasks and things than a generator. But they're very aligned in the sense that you respond to the world. So if you see a problem, you respond to it. If you have an invitation, you also can respond to it.
Okay, so could you give me an example of what that would look like in business? If I were to see something and respond to it, what would that look like? What would that mean for me?
So one example would be social media, right?
Okay.
If you see somebody seeking a question, that's something to respond to. If somebody is explaining, I know that you work with nutritionists, right? And they're explaining something, a situation, maybe about diet, right? That's something where you're like, I have a solution. I'm going to respond to it. So that's all. It is tricky that it is an invitation as well. But for a projector, it's more like they actually have to be invited. Hey, so-and-so, what do you think? Versus as a generator and a manifesting generator, you observe the world around you and find something appropriate to respond to and provide value.
Gotcha. Okay, that's always so fascinating. And how has your understanding of human design shaped you as an entrepreneur?
So for me, it's been embodiment and embodying what I represent and what I stand for. Because as you know, in the real world, a lot of us are programmed to be doers. Do this, do that, create your checklist, and it's all about busyness. And that's not the way everybody's meant to be designed. So a projector is not meant to do. For me, I've learned that if I go through the checklist and I'm just stuck on busy work, then I'm not actually being magnetic because people don't want to work with somebody who's busy, right? And tired and worn out. But somebody who's able to embody what my business and what my brand represents, that is more magnetic. And so I've learned to take a step back and just it's not that I don't do things, but I more represent my brand and I'm very focused on being intentional versus just checking all the boxes.
Yeah. And I think that this is super common. I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs. I have so many friends, girlfriends who are entrepreneurs, and there is this addiction to the tasks. And when you look at the majority of the tasks that a lot of people have during their day, it's a lot of busy work. It's not actually the things that move the needle in our business. And I feel like this is where these tools like human design, or I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but that's where these tools can really come into our advantage, is because we get to catch our patterns. We get to notice when things are out of alignment, when we're not embodied. And I think as women, we have this natural gift of kind of internally knowing that,
but we also have the superpower of shutting it off and ignoring it. And I think that that can lead to a lot of burnout with entrepreneurs, with female entrepreneurs specifically. And I love what you just said, because I feel like this is the message that so many entrepreneurs need to hear. It's like nobody wants to work with the busiest person. What does that mean for our clients? It means that we're not fully present. We don't have the capacity. And
Absolutely.
So I think that there's this new wave of entrepreneurship that has to happen. It has to change. And that is doing something that, like you said, lights you up, that is in alignment with who you are as a person. And we have to stop acting like the busy trophy is the highest goal that we can achieve, because it's such a disservice.
Totally. And I have one more thing that, as you were talking, that reminded me about human design, if I may add.
Well, please.
Okay. So one thing too is, if for those who have seen a human design chart, we all have centers, and some are defined or filled in and some are open. So I'm going to use just the throat as an example. If your throat is defined, then one thing you look at is the energy that it's connected to. So when you're using your throat or your voice, whether it's typing it out or speaking it out, you're looking at whether you're speaking from your heart or your instincts or your gut intuition. It can come from your emotions. And so a lot of people might be spewing out facts when really people are going to connect to them based on their human design chart when they speak about their emotions or their past experiences. And so really learning about the centers is actually going to be probably even bigger than knowing if you're a manifesting generator or a projector. So that's just one example.
So there's a lot to human design.
Yes.
And how did you fall into human design?
I had a friend introduce it to me many years ago. And then, believe it or not, actually my sister got into it, and she does a lot of coaching for people. And so I've used her as a personal coach to help me through stuff. And like I said, as soon as I stepped into it, my business went from a baby business when I started it to I just kept getting referral after referral after referral, because I stepped into embodying instead of showing up at a coffee shop every single day, knowing I needed to show up for my business and just trying to take the next right action steps.
I feel like you have so much internal knowing and just these internal nudges that you've leaned into as an entrepreneur. Would you agree with that?
It's been a process, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like you've just kind of, the best way I can describe it is you've really gotten out of your own way in many ways.
I would say so. I think I've always been like, the traditional old soul. And so I feel like I haven't gotten trapped into as many of the, I guess, programming, but it's taken a long time too. This has been over a decade's worth of kind of unraveling things. And so I want to tell your listeners, be gentle on yourself. You may not be at the same place right now, and that is okay, that this is a part of your journey as well, and to embrace it, but love yourself through it too and along the way.
And what would you say to the entrepreneur who's feeling a little bit trapped in her business? She's not sure what her next steps will be, and she just is kind of sitting in that indecision kind of limbo, not making any decisions, not taking any actions. What would you say to her?
Well, there was a book I read a long time ago called The Seed by John Gordon. And so the first thought that came to my mind with the seed is it's kind of a little parable or a fable. And the nugget that stood out to me most is to think back to a time when you were the happiest and you were doing the things that you enjoyed and that things that lit you up and seemed natural. And so if you're stuck, no matter where you are in your business, go back to times in your life where things seemed to go smoothly and flow. What were you doing? What were you enjoying? And try to bring some of that to where you are now. It may be within your business or your personal life, but stepping into joy and things that are true to you might help you to see the picture differently.
I wonder if a lot of women would think back to childhood memories with this.
And it could be because we carry so much of our childhood into our adult life. whether it's childhood positive memories or even traumas or scars and wounds. So another thing that I've personally done too is looked at beliefs that I currently have that were blocks in my life and figuring out where those blocks and belief systems came. Basically taking your current beliefs and looking to where you're wanting to go and what is holding you. What are those limitations and beliefs that you have right now that are holding you to prevent you from getting to where you want to go? And finding out the root of those beliefs. Are they yours or do they actually come from someone else or a past experience? And so I have found for me personally that they belong to other people and I took them on as my own. And so I've worked a lot on releasing them and giving that belief back to the person that gave it to me or that I thought I picked it up on from, because if it's not mine to carry, then it's only holding me back. It's kind of like extra baggage that I'm carrying around. And so long story short is to reflect on, do you have limitations or beliefs that are keeping you from where you want to go? And it's time to release that.
I think this is so relatable because I don't know one woman, entrepreneur or not, that isn't holding on to some baggage that has been with her for decades, potentially. So what exactly is your process of handing that back to the person that owns that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can look different for different people, right? So for me, I know in my human design, I'm touch. So I like to write. And so I will write letters to people and send it off, not to the person, but like send it off to the universe and either burn it or shred it, put it in water, just kind of release it because I feel like that's an energy exchange. Other people do visualizations, right? And they'll close their eyes and actually visualize maybe that belief you're holding in your hand and you give it back to them and ask them to keep it. You can also clean out centers within your body. If you're holding that that belief in your heart or your mind, you can practice visualizing cleaning that out and replacing it with a belief that's going to serve you better. So, but I do believe it's important if you release a belief to bring one in that's going to serve you better.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece that people miss when trying to move away from those limiting beliefs. And in your experience, what would you say is the number one belief that keeps women stuck?
Well, I think one is people pleasing, doing things because they're afraid to be judged. Mm-hmm. And so one of the biggest ones for me is sometimes it's okay to take an action even if you don't have a plan. And so when I left the marketing business that I was in that was so prolific, everything seemed great on writing, but I knew I needed to move beyond that. And so taking that leap of faith and knowing that you can't live somebody else's life and your happiness is up to you. And so it's important to take care of you first.
Yeah, I love that. And I think this gets easier for us as we age. We tend to really step into more of our unique selves, and we do so with more confidence. And I definitely see that across the board with friends of mine, even within myself. The things that I once held on to don't hold the same meaning. It's not that they're not there, but they just don't impact us the same way. And I love this process of the visualization and the letter writing and stuff like that, just to shed it, to make it gone, putting it out, clearing that space, and then bringing in the thing that we need to take us to the next level. So what is the next thing for you in your business? What are you doing in 2026?
So, I mean, obviously I'm focusing on the word create and being very intentional. And for me, it's really helping other women who I am supporting and mentoring and helping them to kind of go through some of the same processes that I've done as far as releasing. I guess we're in working with other women and what I do. I now I feel like everybody's a mirror and a reflection of things that we've gone through. And so I now see where I have worked on things, but I see other people who are struggling. And so now helping to shine a light and help them to overcome their own limiting beliefs and know their self-worth is almost primary, overcoming even the phototherapy. The phototherapy is huge, but actually helping somebody step into their worth and their value and who they're meant to be is almost just as more powerful as healing their body. So
the phototherapy is the tool, the vehicle to make that happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any specific tangible goal, number-wise, finances-wise, anything that you're really looking to claim in 2026?
As far as financial?
Can be financial. It could be a numbers goal, like you want to get this many people exposed to phototherapy. You want to help this many people.
Yeah, I believe and think that I can definitely hit over 1,000 people this year of helping. So that is definitely a goal on my list right now. So
that is awesome.
On our way for sure.
And so how does somebody get access to you and these patches, your mentorship? Where can people?
Absolutely. They can email me it's positivelypatched@gmail.com, or on my Instagram, it's at positivelyerinward on Instagram.
Amazing. And Erin, one last question for you before we wrap up. What does it mean to be a boss to you?
I think it is taking ownership on where you see your life going and actually making that happen. And so instead of saying shoulda, woulda, couldas, kind of like with this whole New Year thing, we're looking at a fresh start on January 1 as we record this. But to me, a boss is actually making things happen. Instead of saying they're going to do it, they're actually going to do it and make it happen.
Action. Yes. I love that so much. Well, everybody, Erin's information will be linked in the show notes. Make sure you reach out to her if you have any questions about phototherapy. I know I'll be following up with some questions I have about it because I think it's super cool. And Erin, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. I had so much fun. This was great and an awesome way to start the new year.
Thank you so much for spending a part of your day with me. I want to remind you to take a moment and notice what this conversation has stirred up inside of you. You get to decide what you want to do with that. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, continue to build boldly and own it fully.